Yes. Yeah. Very good morning to all. Happy to welcome you on this BAT 2021 series of webinar session conducted by TCC. Uh, uh, it's a great sessions, and we are getting very good response from all the industries on these sessions. Continuously, we are doing for last 2 to 3 days. We are getting continuous support from all industries. We are getting very good presenters. All are enjoying the sessions. Yeah. Today also we are getting this session. Yeah. Just a minute. Just I want to talk about this World Accreditation Day. This World Accreditation Day is celebrating on every June 9th of June. This year we are having the theme of supporting the implementation of SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. That is a theme we are having. All our webinar on this World Accreditation Day year 2021 is based on this theme, supporting the implementation of SDGs, supporting the implementation of Sustainable Development Goals. Just I want to talk about on this. It's a global initiative established by ILOC and IAF to promote the value of this day. Yeah. ILOC is International Laboratory Accreditation Corporation, IAF International Accreditation Forum. This World Accreditation Day 2021 highlights the role of accreditation in supporting the implementation of UN Sustainable Development Goals. Accreditation 2021 has been chosen to ensure the policy makers to continue use accreditation and QA services to support their SDG agenda. That is the reason we are covering all the industry in this series of sessions. It provides opportunity for ILAC and IAF members to share example with stakeholders, regulators, and consumer of how accreditation may be applied to meet objectives such as increasing trade, addressing environment and health and safety concerns, and improving the general overall quality output in economy. These are all the key points we are having for celebrating this World Accreditation Day. By considering all these aspects, we have formed a series of webinars and it's going on. I want to talk about our TCC. Sorry. TCC Consultants Consortium of Chennai. It's Association of Management System Consultant. It's registered under Tamil Nadu Societies Act as an association. It's as a name as per the society, it's Consultants Consortium of Chennai. It's platform for management consultant and other allied consultants also. We have consult in all the fields, all the segments, including financial, HR, legal strategy implementations, ISO certification process, food safety consultants, IT sectors, aerospace, all kind of platform we have our management consultants. So in this platform, we are helping the industry to get latest updations, schemes, certification activities, what are all the protocol to be followed for implementing the system and implementations, latest technological news, everything we are providing. And we are having strong relationship with industry for getting update on latest activities. We are having sector specific consultant with experience, skill and competencies. That's our TCC activities. I'm hand over the session to our moderator and continue with this.
Thank you, Prem.
Thank you.
Can I share my screen?
Now you can start to share your screen, madam, from the PowerPoint.
Yeah. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah, we are seeing your screen, madam. We are seeing.
So good morning, one and all, and a warm welcome to this WAD webinar series. I am really thankful to consortium, the Consultant Consortium of Chennai, that is CCC, what we call it as popularly. I'm thankful to Rama ma'am, Dr. Srikantan, Prem, and all the team wholeheartedly, because they are taking huge efforts, since last couple of weeks, I would say. And thanks for inviting us to talk about, the important subject on pharmaceutical and biotech industry. So I will be the moderator of this session, and with me there are two, eminent speaker we have invited, and you will listen to them. And I bet on this that you will enjoy this session thoroughly. Okay. Thanks once again, and I'll start with my session with the life science sector. So these are the three presenter, out of which I will be the moderator and the presenter as well. So I have spent 20 years in the industry called Novartis, Sandoz, Glenmark, TCS, Cognizant, and after spending 20 years having practical experience, I started my own company called Raj GPRAC, and we have Raj Pharma e-learning as a training institute. And we have trained almost 28,000, more than 28,000 students in different areas like pharma, biotech, food, nutraceutical, medical devices. With respect to regulatory affairs, quality assurance, clinical research, pharmacovigilance, pharma documentation, lead auditors, and so on. So I am the lead auditor of ISO 13485 and ISO 9001. That's brief about me, and I will discuss about the second and the third presenter profile after my session. So all the images, all the content which I brought together for you is acknowledged at the end of this slide, and all the slides were available to make this presentation. The content brought together is available freely on our website. Okay, so nothing to worry about the content, but just I'm trying to focus on how this life science sector looks like. What are the global pharmaceutical market? How we are doing in pharma sector. Then how the drug development takes place, how the product development takes place. What are the worldwide regulatory bodies? How do they regulate? How many regulatory bodies are there? And what are the different formats used in pharmaceutical industry? What are the accreditation and certification required to run this pharma industry? And there will be some part of quality management system, compliance, and we'll take with the Q&A session. So as you know, the life science segment is very, very big, extremely big, but we are not going to cover all the parts of life science. Okay, so we are majorly focusing on pharmaceutical and biotechnology in today's session. So you can see there are so many sectors in life science, right? And how our route of administration. So when it comes to pharma industry always divided into drugs and the drugs product. Okay, so drugs, when we talk about the drugs, the development of drugs altogether takes place, it requires huge number of years. So it's a long process, correct? So before we start development of drug, before we talk on the drug discovery and the development, just try to understand what are the different route of administration, okay, for the drug. So it is classified as systemic and the local. Correct? In systemic, it's internal route of administration and the parenteral, which are most popular route is oral drug consumption. If you see lots of tablets, capsules are got like anything, for any kind of disease. If you have fever, you have the Dolo 650 or the Crocin or, in old days, aspirin. So like that, the classification is very, very important whenever you want to develop your drug product. Okay, or in that case, the drug discovery, right from drug discovery, it starts, development of route of administration and the other factors I will consider, when we go through this actual slide. Let us focus on this classification of dosage form. As I already spoken about, there are different kind of dosage form like tablets, capsule, liquid orals, parenterals. So those route of administration and the dosage form are based on the sterile and the non-sterile dosage form. So everybody is aware of what is sterile and what is non-sterile, right? So our industry works upon these two concepts. Whenever they want to launch their molecule or the product in the industry, they will see to that what are the route of administration, what is the molecule we have to select right from the development per se till market launch. Correct. Then the consumption is also important. That means the market research and who are the consumers. So from the consumer point of view, as I said, many people would love to go for the oral route, correct? And the oral route products are easy to uh, manufacture as well. So not only, but depending on our anatomy and physiology, we have to consider other routes as well, sublingual inhalation, then transdermal, rectal, depending on the type of disease. Am I right? So all the routes as per the anatomy and the physiology of our body, uh, the medicine is developed in such a way that it take care of all the part of the body and it should meet all our disease requirement. That's how this industry is working. Let us focus on how this global industry look like. As I said, the pharma industry is divided into bulk drug and the formulation. So the bulk drug in the India, if you see active pharmaceutical ingredient, it is called as API. API is active pharmaceutical ingredient, and the market in 2021, if you see, it's a huge market. And as I said, drug product which is already divided as per our requirement and our disease, unmet disease, I would say. And those diseases are like anti-diabetic, antiviral, anti-hypertensive, anti-asthmatic, anti-rheumatoid arthritis, and so on. And there are other drugs as well. So if you see together the active pharmaceutical and the pharmaceutical product, the industry is evolved right from 1980. If you see, the Bengal Chemicals was the first industry, that is
Sorry,
1930.
I can't see the presentation, please.
Oh, is it?
Dr. Sundaramurthy Reddy from Pondicherry.
Madam, we are getting the screen. You can continue.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Sundaramurthy, please check your side. It is very well visible now.
Yeah. Sorry. So
Yeah.
active pharmaceutical.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if you see the global pharmaceutical market is growing in day by day, years and years. So if you see by 2023, the North America will be reaching up to 45.33%. The Europe. So if you see the global market for the pharmaceutical industry is growing fast. And along with that, if you see Asia Pacific, okay, Asia Pacific is also growing fast. You can see the share, the 24.07%. So sky is the limit for all, pharma industrial people and the people working in pharma industry for their, career. Because during COVID pandemic, we know that lots of people have lost their job, and lots of people are suffering due to COVID also and due to this. So both way, if you see, there is a demand and supply, correct? So there is a demand of skilled workers and there is a demand of medicine as well. So during COVID, you see there was a huge requirement of remdesivir and so many drugs, and which many companies were unable to manufacture also. In that matter, vaccine as well. Okay, so let us see how this pharma industry works actually, and these are the some slides which I brought for the top 10 pharma companies worldwide. Then India also is growing fast. So for India, we have another speaker, uh, Shri Om Prakash Sadhwani, and he will be focusing on specifically to Indian import-export of drugs regulations and other aspects. So in India also, if you see top 10, Sun Pharma, Lupin, Dr. Reddy, Cipla, and so many other companies. So what are the advantage of India being growing so faster? So we have the government support, right? The policy support. If you see, in February 2021, the government approved the PLI, that is Production Linked Incentive Scheme, and through which many foreign direct investments are coming to our India. And the growth is tremendous. It has raised up to $18. From April, if you see, there is a tremendous growth of 18%. Okay, so of course there is a cost efficiency because in India you get manpower at the economical rate and with the best quality. Am I right? So a low cost of production and R&D boost efficiency for the Indian pharma company, and which helps in to sustain in competitive world, and that is why India is very good in export markets. If you see, 90% of these top 10 companies are into generic business and they are into export. If you ask me, like Cipla, then Oakard and Dr. Reddy's, Lupin, Sun Pharma, all these big giant players, they have more than 140 countries export, 180 countries export. So, and that's the reason I said there is a huge potential in this pharma industry because we have government support, we have good manpower, we deliver all the product as per the, of course, considering all patients, safety, quality, efficacy per se, and the final, the cost, so cost is very important. And this is how it's increasing. Then Indian market, if you see, we are the third largest in the world in terms of volume. And if you see the 2021 Indian made generics, see huge demand grows by 18% to 24.44% billion. And we export more than 200 countries. And we are the world leader, of course. And now during this COVID also, if you see, every third dose of vaccine administered anywhere in world comes from an Indian manufacturing facility. So all vaccine manufacturer like Serum Institute of India, Bharat Biotech, and there are several others, they are producing all these vaccines. The Covishield, Covaxin has become popular amongst them. Okay. So how these drugs are developed, I'm just, briefing in this slide. So suppose when you want to develop a new drug, you have to identify the target first, the identification of target, then hit, then the lead of that optimization of target, and then it goes to preclinical animal studies. So if you see from target identification till lead generation optimization, it takes several years. Am I right? So each stage, if you see 1 to 2 years, 1 to 2 years, 1 to 2 years. So this drug, when it is under R&D, under discovery phase, itself takes 4 to 5 years. And then your preclinical studies, which are on animal, starts, right? Wherein we prove safety and efficacy of that drug, the new drug which you are going to develop, correct? Then after preclinical only, we are supposed to start with the clinical studies, that is first time in human. So once we prove our drug is safe and efficacious in animal, that data will go to your NDA, that is phase 3, right? Phase 1, 2, 3. So phase 1 is a smaller phase which takes 1 to 2 years, and it is conducted on 20 to 100 people, wherein we prove that the drug is safe in human, right? Then it goes to phase 2 for 100 to 300 people, the patient, wherein again we prove the efficacy along with the safety. And phase 3, again, 1,000 to 3,000 people, it is called multidisciplinary and multicentric phase. wherein we prove efficacy and safety. And along with this huge data, if you see, it takes 10 to 15 years to reach up to phase 3. And then only we are able to file an NDA. Okay. So you can see from target identification, target validation, lead optimization, from preclinical to clinical phase till NDA submission, it takes 10 to 15 years. And that's how this the innovator drug or the branded drugs are very, very costly, right? So we, being a pharmaceutical industry professional, we did not to stop after NDA. Again, we have to see how this drug, once it is commercialized, is going to be safe years and years. And that is why phase 4, that is post-marketing surveillance, is very, very important. Okay. Once the drug is consumed by lakhs of crores of people, still it is producing the same effect, still it is the same, the safety is same, or do we have any adverse effect or adverse event, that we have to see through the pharmacovigilance system. So we have to build a robust pharmacovigilance system after the drug is commercialized. Okay. So in between, if you see, when we go for the preclinical or when you start the clinical phases, that is phase 1, during that time, we have to file the IND. IND is nothing but the investigational new drug submission. Okay. So in this, within 30 days, if any FDA doesn't answer, that means your protocol or whatever data is submitted for to the FDA is approved, and you can start your clinical studies in human. So that is how this drug development takes place. Now come to product development. Here, I would emphasize that the NDA submission, after NDA submission, your drug is listed in Orange Book, and the innovator gets, the 20 years patent. He becomes a patent holder. And I still salute to the Hatch-Waxman Act. So when the Hatch and Waxman, these two gentlemen came together and, published one act that is called Hatch-Waxman Act 1984. So from that, we, the manufacturer, the applicant are, easily develop a product which is bioequivalent to your innovator, wherein we need not to go for the rigorous procedure of clinical trials, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. You can just prove that your product is bioequivalent to this NDA. So we have to consider this NDA as your RLD, the reference listed drug, and you can, easily develop your generic product and bring into the market. And that is how this is the difference between the drug development and the product development. So let us discuss about the product development, how, and the product registration. How does it, how it takes place in industry. So when you have your NDA, your RLD already into market, you can develop your generic product, which is also called in US terminology ANDA. So after NDA, we can go for ANDA, that is abbreviated new drug application. Okay. In this case, you have to select your API, right? Approved API. Then to that you have to add excipient. You have to search for the packaging material. Okay. And your finished product development starts, right? Once you finish product development is over, you are reached up to the prototype, you go for the BAB studies, bioequivalence study, and simultaneously you start your dossier preparation. Okay, so you have to prepare for your application. You can collect all the data as per country specific requirement and the product specific requirement, and you prepare your dossier and be ready for the submission. Okay, so this is how the product development takes place. And once the dossier is evaluated and submitted to the respective health authority. Now, in this case, suppose if you are ready with the ANDA applicant, okay, and you since ANDA is terminology used by US, so you have to follow USFDA rules and regulations. So USFDA comes under again stricter, USFDA itself is a strict regulatory body, so we have to follow all strict standards, rules, regulations, formats, etc., etc., and submit your application to USFDA. When your application will be reviewed, then they will come for the plant inspection. And once everything is as per the application submitted to USFDA, you meet all the requirement for quality, safety, efficacy, then your product will be approved. So that is called ANDA approved, and it will be published on their USFDA site. So I'm just considering example of USFDA ANDA. Okay. So like that, there are several other countries as well, and you have to follow the country specific requirement and the product specific requirement. So in short, now you understood right from the drug discovery, drug development till product development, how this product life cycle, the drug life cycle is maintained in the pharmaceutical industry. Okay, so drug discovery, drug development, then we come to product development and the manufacturing, packaging, sales, marketing, and the distribution takes place. Okay, so this is how the life cycle of any drug product look like. So now I come to the different worldwide regulatory bodies. What are those? The biggest body, as I mentioned earlier, is USFDA. Then EMA, that is European Medicine Agency, UK MHRA, Health Canada, Australian TGA, WHO is also one of the biggest body. Then CDSO, our Indian Health Authority, PMDA is the Japanese Health Authority. So these are all worldwide regulatory bodies. So I'm going to discuss only couple of them because of the time limit. I can discuss only 2 to 3 regulatory bodies. So what is USFDA? Everybody knows it is an agency within the Department of Health of Human Services in the United States. And of course, any health authority's main objective is to protect health, with respect to safety, efficacy, and the quality of the drug. So everybody has to ensure, everybody means the manufacturer in pharma industry has to ensure that whatever product you are going to develop, we should meet those 3 parameters, that is safety, efficacy, and the quality. Okay. So USFDA organization, if you see, they are divided into different departments like CDER, CBER. The CDER is the Center for the Drug Evaluation, and CBER is the Center for the Biological Evaluation. And like that, there are medical devices evaluation department. Then there are veterinary, there are tobacco, there are so many department if you see. So our main focus will be on CDR in today's presentation. Although we deal with CBER and medical device with USFDA. What are the different laws followed in USFDA? The main is Food and Drug Cosmetic Act. Then Section 1, that is 21 CFR parts. Then if you see PADUFA, GADUFA, ADUFA, and these acts are very important when you have to follow the fee structure. Okay. In old days, when I was in industry from 1991 till 2004, the fees was not charged by USFDA. Although other countries used to charge the application fees, the ANDA DMF was absolutely free. DMF is a drug master file, which is required for the API, active pharmaceutical ingredient. So whenever you want to apply through, IND, NDA, ANDA, BLA, or any application, other application, so you have to follow this act. The Prescription Drug User Fee Act, that is ADUFA. Then generic, for generic molecule like ANDA, you have to follow GADUFA. For animal, the NADA, you have to follow ADUFA. Okay. And the Hatch-Waxman Act and Amendment, as I said, it's a beautiful act and one should go through it because of that, we have given an opportunity to bring the cost-effective product in market, you know, and we really salute to these two gentlemen who brought this act. So this is how the USFDA looks like. Then come to Europe. Europe is again the biggest continental. If you see, Europe has 50 countries. And Europe also has, the different departments called CHMP, CVMP, COMP. What is CHMP means? The Committee for Medicinal Product for Human Use. If you see, H is for human use, CVMP, V is for veterinary, COMP means orphan medical products, HMPC means Committee on Herbal Medical Products, CAT is a Committee for Advanced Therapies, PDSO for Pediatric, and PRAC is for Pharmacovigilance Risk Assessment Committee. So Europe also work as per their own administration, and it comprises of 27 member states, and plus 3 IFTA members, European Free Trade Association. So those are the 3 countries like Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway. So if you see, Europe has 27 plus 3, like 30 total, 30 member state in Europe. And I found Europe is bit complicated market. The regulatory procedure is also a bit complicated because they don't have straightforward procedure like I mentioned, IND, NDA, ANDA submission. So they have, like in Europe, they have 4 different regulatory systems, like national procedure, mutual recognition procedure, which is popularly called as MRP. DCP is a decentralized procedure, and the centralized procedure. So what is the difference? Quickly, I will tell you. Centralized procedure means one application, if you submit, we get an approval and market the product in whole Europe, that is 30 countries. But it is a very costlier and time consuming procedure. But in case of like biotech product, rare disease product, anti-AIDS, anti-cancer, in case of now corona virus, all such kind of disease, if it's coming up, so we have to go through this route only. So the centralized procedure is for the emergency use drugs and the rare disease and other products and the biotech products. Whereas decentralized procedure, mutual recognition, and national procedure are also very popular. I will explain. National procedure means one country, one application. So suppose now you have captured US and other countries. If you are a manufacturer and your product is already available in US and other market, now you want to enter into Europe. So what you will do, you cannot go to directly through centralized procedure, right? Because your product is not of biotech or rare disease or orphan or something like that. So for any other kind of product, you will select the route of national procedure, wherein you can select one country, one application. Once you enter into Europe, then you can go for mutual recognition procedure, that is MRP. Okay, and then slowly you go through this. Decentralized procedure means you can select one country as a reference member state and multiple country as a concerned member state. So in this way, these 4 different regulatory systems are available in Europe. Then the third largest country is Japanese, and which is also very strict, highly regulated market, I would say. And there are MHLW, PMDA, and NIID. These are the 3 branches which works together to get our product registered and approved. Then UK MHRA is also one of the biggest health authority amongst Europe, and they have separated. Now the after Brexit, UK has their own rules regulation. Then come to the emerging market, or which we call it as the semi-regulated market, ROW, the rest of the world. Okay, So the regulated market, as we mentioned, US, Europe, and Japan and other countries. So semi-regulated market comprises of Asian countries, Asia, African countries, Middle East countries, Latin America, CIS, and so on. So when we talk about regulated and semi-regulated market, regulated market has their own rules, regulations, and we have to strictly follow. Wherein in semi-regulated market we find some kind of challenges. So what are those challenges? Because lack of harmonization, these semi-regulated markets become sometimes tougher to handle. Some noise is coming. Ashok Sharma, can I? May I request Ashok Sharma to keep on mute? Hello. Yeah.
You can continue. You can continue.
Yeah. So, since the semi-regulated market, there is a lack of harmonization in the regulatory system. So we sometimes face challenges with respect to, the format, the fees, the review cycle, then their local requirement for the clinical trials or the BAB studies, and they themselves have the staff who is having there is no adequate knowledge about the regulatory science, and then whenever we want to have a meeting with those regulatory people, then there is always a challenge of having our pre-submission or meeting with those for the any scientific advice. So, and the documentation which is required for submission along with your application is also varies from country to country. And that's how we face lots of challenges when we deal with these all semi-regulated countries like African, Middle East, Latin America, CIS, and Asian countries. Because they have their own national regulations, their own local language. Even we face challenges during the languages also, because many of the label and administrative part we have to translate into their local language. For example, if I had to go to Japan or China, we have to translate the dossier into Chinese or Japanese. Even if I go to Mexico, the Spanish, Brazil, Portuguese, France, French, Germany, German. So lots of challenges we face when we deal with these health authorities, and we have to have a huge cost also. We have to keep the fees for additional fees is required for the translation and other aspects. We have to appoint local agent in the respective countries. So all these challenges are there, though we call the every country is willing to harmonize. So nowadays, what is for my 32 years in the experience in the industry, what I have seen, lots of the countries are coming forward and they are started following the CTD format, which is the most popular, and which is the common technical dossier. So these are the different formats used in different countries. As I said, CTD is a common technical document, which is a product of the ICH. ICH is again International Council on Harmonization, which helps to bring many guidance document with respect to quality, safety, efficacy, and multidisciplinary. And out of which ICH M4 is a CTD format, and which is most popular. If you see, there are 5 modules. The module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are required, in which the very nicely they have given the granularity, and as per the granularity we have to compile the dossier into CTD format, submit to health authority like US, Europe, Japan, in case of Canada, then UK MHRA, then South Africa. There are multiple countries who started following and accepting this format, and so it is a worldwide global format. And nowadays, if you see, all countries are following eCTD, the Electronic Common Technical Document. Okay. Coming to ACTD, ACTD is popularly acceptable in Southeast Asian countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Brunei, Indonesia, and all those 10 countries which I have mentioned in the previous slide. under Asian, there are 10 countries. Okay. So all those 10 countries, though they have their own national regulation, they accept the dossier into ACTD format, which is Asian Common Technical Document, and which has 4 parts like part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4. Okay. So part 1 is always, it is an administrative part. And if you see in CTD also, there is a module 1, which is a administrative information. And in part 2, in case of Asian CTD, we have to submit the quality data and the quality overall summary. Whereas in case of CTD, the module 2 is divided into the quality overall summary for non-clinical and the clinical overviews, and also the CMC part, which goes under the module 3. Okay. So in short, if I have to explain the difference between ACTD and the CTD, so these ACTD comprises of 4 parts, that is part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, whereas CTD or ECTD comprises of 5 modules, that is module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in which module 2 is quality overall summary of module 3, 4, and 5. So this is in short. There are many things. This is my favorite topic, regulatory affairs and all different types of application to different countries, and I can spend 2 to 3 days on this topic. Now come to guidelines and the regulation. Okay, how the guidelines and the regulations are used in pharma industry. So we use generally the current good manufacturing practices, good laboratory practices, good automated laboratory practices, and good automated manufacturing practice, that is GAMP, that is GAMP 5, which is a ISP standard. Okay, so which is also used popularly in pharma industry, and out of which the most popular guidelines, if you ask me, we more focus on the ICH guidelines. Okay, so what is ICH? ICH, as I mentioned earlier, it's a International Council on Harmonization of Technical Requirements for Registration of Pharmaceutical for Human Use, and it is a tripartite organization, like US, Europe, Japan. They came together and they formed this quality, safety, efficacy, and multidisciplinary. All these guidances are harmonized guidances, and they are majorly used in the industry. Okay, so these are the very popular guidelines in the pharma industry. If you consider GMP, simple GMP, we use ICHQ7. Okay, of course, when we talk about USFDA or Europe, we use the respective country-specific guidelines as well along with this. But the most popularly used guidances, if you ask me, are ICH guidances. So they are divided into quality, safety, efficacy, and multidisciplinary. And as I mentioned, so this is the elaboration on quality guidelines, how it is divided from quality like Q1 to Q14. If you have to consider the stability, how to conduct stability of drug substance, drug product, how to bring the data, how to write a commitment, you can refer to this quality Q1 guidelines. And similarly, there are validation guidelines, GMP guidelines, pharmaceutical development guidelines, quality risk management. Q9, Q10, Q11, if you see, we refer together whenever we want to develop a robust quality risk management system. Like in medical device industry, we use quality risk management ISO 14971, and in pharma industry, we use ICH Q9, Q10 and Q11 together. Then there is a CFR, like CFR, Code of Federal Regulation, 21 CFR. So we use lots of 21 CFR parts with respect to, other activities like validation, then product samples, other quality, safety, reliability, compliance issues, and so on. So this is very popular code of federal regulation, in which when we talk about the GMP, we use 21 CFR Part 210 and 211. When we talk about the computerized system, we use 21 CFR Part 11. Okay, so these are also widely used guidances in industry. Let us talk about what ISO standards do we use in the industry. As per my knowledge, we majorly use four standards. One is ISO 9001, which is a management standards, of course, is used by most of the company. Again, it is not mandatory standard to be used in the industry, because we, being a pharmaceutical industry, have many other standards, rules, regulations, stricter rules we have to follow, and we have to implement our system as per those standard only. But still, I found that certain standards like ISO 14,000 for environment, then ISO 45,001 for the occupational health and safety is of course majorly used in our industry. Then ISO 27,001 is used for information security management. This is also very, very important standard used in the industry. Then there is one more uh, guidance available during the inspection. Lots of inspections are happening in industry, and once the inspection is successful, then only we get the marketing approval and we start our commercialization. So there is a PICS. PICS is like pharmaceutical inspection cooperation scheme, and it is an informal cooperative arrangement between regulatory authorities and in the field of good manufacturing practices. Okay, and it is used in human and veterinary, both the sector. And there are a couple of countries, almost 54 participating countries are the member of PICS, and India is also applied for the PICS. What happens, once we register ourselves in the PICS, uh, then it has advantages, because suppose I'm an employee from Lupin or Sun Pharma, and I have already registered my product and got marketing approval from a couple of countries listed over here. Okay, suppose a couple of countries I have already registered and got the marketing approval. Then when you become a PICS member, then there is no need to re-inspect the facility. If you are already a member of this PICS, then there is always advantage over this PICS registration, and which increase the mutual confidence, between the countries to countries, and it builds a good network to work with the competent authority. And that's how they are also harmonizing, the inspection procedure across the globe. And currently there are almost 54 countries registered in this PICS. So after PICS, if you see, I have discussed right from drug discovery, drug development, product development, how this global regulatory market, what are the different regulatory bodies, what are the formats used, what are the standards used. The everything, boils around the compliance system, correct? So everywhere, if you see, you have to meet all the standards by mean of, like, the compliance. So how this road to compliance looks like? If you are at current state and if you want to achieve, go to the desired state, in between you have to follow all those guidances which I have discussed earlier, right? You have to take help of ICH, 21 CFR parts, then ISO, and there are formats. There are so many things, right? Drugs and Cosmetic Act, laws. In case of Europe, there are directives. So all this comes in between when we talk about the compliance, correct? So this is very important slide. Unless and until you build a robust quality management system, and if you have, uh, like robust automated, your the GAMP, which you follow the good automated practices, the manufacturing practices, laboratory practices, then GMP, GLP, everything. Apart from that, if you have, effective escalation and reporting system, effective validation and the qualification system for your system, for your process, for your equipment, procedures, then only you are in a position to build a robust quality management system, without which any company will not be successful. So robust quality management system is an essential part of pharmaceutical industry. Along with the quality system, you have to build a robust computerized system also. If you see during past couple of years, many of the pharmaceutical industries have faced the challenges of data integrity, then 483 warning letters, and so on. So if you build your good computerized system, uh, then sky is a limit for you, because security or the information security and other part is very important, because pharma industry is far way ahead as compared to other segment like medical device, nutraceutical, foods, and other industry. They are uh, at very means high level. They already are in a means using SAP, LIMS, REAMS, QMS, LMS. There are so many softwares and IT systems used in the pharma industry. So see to that your data is secured. You take care of user management policy, IT policy, electronic signature, backup restoration, audit trails, and so on. So that is how it looks like. And of course, the training is extremely important. To see the effectiveness of training is equally important. And that is how each company has their own training department. Those do not have training department, the quality assurance and the regulatory people are responsible to take care of their employees and train them, right from the induction training to on job, and the further development of the employees. So this is how the industry works in different ways. Now my question is like, you can fix the system, you can fix the processes, you can fix the procedure, but can you fix the people? Can you fix the people? The answer is no, right? So because why? There are different behavior, there are different culture, there are different attitudes, and because of this, industry still has some challenges with respect to human. Correct? So that is why a strong quality culture is best indicated by what is done when nobody is looking. So my favorite proverb is, do whatever you say and say what you do. Do what you say what you do, and prove what you did and what you said. And that is how, if you work, if you build a strong quality culture in your company, then there is a good sustainability, and that is how the culture is the cornerstone of the quality. And it's time to satisfy our patient, and that is why we have to be committed, right? So all, if you see, right from the research, drug discovery, development, till the product launch, and then the post marketing surveillance, you need a commitment. You should be dedicated, right? You should have respect towards each other. You should support to each other, correct? You have to empower people. Then the personal integrity, you can see so many things positively happening around us. Why? Because we have to satisfy our own patient. We have to bring all the product in the country which are safe, right? So this is the takeaway from my presentation with respect to pharma industry. And these are all references which I have gathered for you. Thank you for your kind attention. And if you have any question, you can ask now, or we can park your question and take it forward maybe after the two speakers' presentation. So I leave it on the host. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello.
Again, Rajeshri. Prem?
Yeah.
You can take over, Rajeshri. You can continue moderating the session.
Continue.
Okay.
Now we are hand over session to Mr. Girish Magajan.
Yeah.
Dr. Girish Magajan.
Let us complete with the pharma first. So as per my knowledge, I have taken care of pharma industry some part. Now let him speak about the India, Indian import export. So I welcome Mr. Om Prakash Sadhwani sir. I respect him a lot because we are working on couple of projects together. And he is having 30 years of experience in the enforcement of drug laws with expertise in detection and investigation of contravention cases. And he was our former Joint Commissioner FDA and Drug Controller Maharashtra. He was Best Drug Control Officer of India, All India Drug Control Officers Confederation 2010. He was awarded with the Gaurav Puraskar, Government of Maharashtra in 2008. He represented India in multiple national and international pharmaceutical forums, and he was former secretary of All India Drug Control Officer Confederation, that is AIDCOC, then former member of Drug Technical Advisory Board, that is DTAP, for 3 years. He is also one of the certified lead auditor for ISO 13485, that is QMS, for medical device, and he is an expert trainer of for adherence to FDA acts and rule, and he has delivered more than 50 plus training. So I welcome Sadhwani sir, and please share your screen and take the session ahead. Thank you very much. Sadhwani sir.
Mr. Sadhwani sir, please unmute and talk.
Thank you, Rajshri, for a very good introduction. And I'm thankful to the organizers for creating this opportunity on the World Accreditation Day. And I would like to insist that quality and accreditation are hand in gloves. So once quality is there, it is to be certified, and who is certifying and how it is certified, that the things are to be accredited. So systems are to be accredited. And then when Rashri has already created a background that world needs medicines which are of quality, safety and efficacy is very important. We are passing through a pandemic where we have understood that availability, accessibility, affordability of medicines is really important. And then India being pharmacy of the world, very important for every participant. We are pharmacy of the world. We are sending, exporting medicines to around 200 countries. We are third in volume, we are ninth in value. So we provide affordable medicines to the world. Even nowadays, you must have seen that we provided, even though we are suffering on vaccine shortage, we have been providing vaccines to the world. So India has been good net exporter of the medicines. And I remember my earlier presentations when I was assistant drug controller also. At that time, we were saying that market is of 40,000 crores, 20,000 crores import and 20,000 crore 20,000 crores domestic and 20,000 crores export or something. Now presently, last figures are 1,20,000 crore domestic market and 1,40,000 crore export from India. Most of the developed economies, US, Europe, are importing medicines from India. 40% generics in Europe and US are supplied by India. So we have been labeled as pharmacy of the world. So every drug being manufactured in India is important, and quality of the drug being manufactured here is also important. Therefore, today we will be looking into the issues related to import and export of the drugs. Import, particularly very sophisticated molecules or patented molecules and patented drugs we are importing. Most of the APIs we are importing, maybe from China or some other European countries. Right, so import regulation is there. So we'll talk very in short about import regulation, but we'll talk about in details about WHO Gmp certification, which is required for export, because multiple countries, multiple regulatory agencies, robust regulatory agencies are insisting on their certification. They come here, audit facilities, and certify the manufacturing facilities and the products. However, there is rest of world, as Rashi said, around 150 plus countries who do not have stringent controls at their level, but they follow WHO guidelines. So WHO member countries are they are mandated that you should have WHO Gmp certification. So the countries who are members of WHO scheme, they give certificates and that certificate is acceptable. So we will be talking in general what is allowed to be, how import is allowed in India, and while export, what are the mandatory requirements and how you can one get WHO Gmp certificate, what is that scheme. I would like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
I hope it is visible. Is it
Yes,
visible,
sir.
Rashi?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so
Visible,
we
sir.
are talking
Visible.
about pharma industry, import and export of drugs, regulations, and different certifications. As Rashri also discussed, and every presentation should be talking that medicine, if it is there, it has to be of quality. It has to be safe. It has to be efficacious, and there should be rational use of drugs. Right. Nowadays, you must be looking that quality is important. What quality you are creating is important. Medicine is safe or not. What's safety? If you get some bad effects or serious adverse effects from medicine, there is an issue. As we are now facing mucormycosis or something like that, so safety is a real issue. Medicine is effective. Is it rationally used? If it is not rationally used, corticosteroids used without requirement or abuse or not used in a proper fashion, there is issue. So essentially is quality, safety, efficacy, rational use, and most important, it has to be available. Worldwide drug is there, but it is not available in your chemist counter or not available in the hospital where patient is there. So availability is also issue. How you make drugs available? As of now, we are seeing remdesivir issue of availability. There is a issue of availability for tocilizumab. There is issue of availability for amphotericin. So there are issues. So availability is also very important. If drugs are there, they have to be available. Affordability. Cost is such that you cannot afford. Drug is there, life can be protected, right? Life can be safe, but nobody can afford medicine, or if affordability is the issue, if the medicine is very costly, then how to do that? Promotion through projection of factual information. So drugs are promoted by exaggerated claims. If they are not, if they cannot, they are not effective in those claims, then they should not be promoted. So promotion has to be controlled in such a way that the information has to be factual, and preventing misuse and abuse of the drugs. These are all points which are related to the drug, right? For if you talk, now I will be talking specifically for India. For having all these quality, safety, efficacy, rational use of drugs, availability, affordability, promotion and prevention, misuse and abuse, Constitution of India has given us some ways and some weapons that how you can do this. So they have given us Drugs and Cosmetic Act 1940. Under this Drug and Cosmetic Act, there are various rules, which include Drug and Cosmetic Rules 1945, Medical Devices Rules 2017, New Drugs and Clinical Trial Rules 2019. Then there is Drugs and Magic Remedies Objectionable Advertisement in Act in 1954. Drugs Prices Control Order, which keeps prices of the drugs under check, and Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act 1985. So these are the support system that how the drugs which you are manufactured or being sold or imported or distributed from India will be regulated as far as quality, safety, price, claims, and use and abuse is concerned. Now we go into very important act, that is Drugs and Cosmetic Act. Object of the act is to regulate what is this act regulates? Act regulates import. Act regulates import, manufacture, sale, and distribution of drugs and cosmetics. And it envisages total quality management, TQM. So it is, if you talk of any ISO system, particularly when you talk of 9001, ISO 9001, or ISO 13485 for medical devices, everybody is talking of quality management system. So all the acts, particularly drug acts, will always talk of that quality has to be there and how that quality is to be managed. So here under drug act, when we talk import, manufacture, sale, distribution of drugs and cosmetic is covered under this act. Prices are covered at some other level. Claims are and advertisement is covered under some other act. So what are the responsibilities? Who is enforcing this? There are responsibilities divided because health is a concurrent subject. It goes into the ambit of central government and state government both. So central and state government both are responsible for enforcement of various acts. Particularly, if you see regulatory framework in India, legislation is to be prepared by Government of India, and particularly in our drug section, it is Central Drug Standard Control Organization or DCGI. So central government, Ministry of Health through CDSCO works on legislation. International trade, import is totally regulated by central government. Export is also permitted and regulated by central government norms. Clinical trials are regulated by central government. All new drug approvals, any drug coming for the first time in India or new drug definition has got various issues. So any drug which is being used for the first time in India is a new drug. Any drug which is already approved in India for a particular indication, if it is to be used in another indication, it is a new drug. If first time the combination is being used, it is a new drug. All particularly vaccines and vaccines and dRNA and mRNA products will be new drugs. So biologicals will be generally new drugs. So all these new drug approvals and their clinical trials and their approval process is regulated by government. Of this all, manufacturing licenses are somewhere joint responsibility or somewhere state responsibility. So for biologicals, it is joint responsibility of central and state government, where state grants license and central government is the central license approving authority. For particularly if you talk of medical devices, for category A and B, state is the licensing authority. For C and D, central government is the licensing authority. For other drugs, somewhere central government and somewhere state government may be jointly licensed. If you talk of sale, sale and distribution, totally under state FDA. So all licenses for sale, distribution are issued by state FDAs. All investigations, consumer complaints, because it is through arising from the sales, so everything is under the state FDA. And particularly because it is with the state FDA, when there is interstate ramifications, some coordination is required. Therefore, I always say that for investigation of any particular complaint related to spurious drug or quality of a drug, some coordination between the states and central and state coordination is required. So it merits coordination at that level. Now, what is the law? Law, particularly, there is one very important section under Drug and Cosmetic Act, which prohibits manufacture and sale. So, manufacture for sale, sale or stock or exhibit or offer for sale or distribute to any drug is prohibited except under the license. So, nobody can manufacture, sale, stock, exhibit or offer for sale or distribute any drug if they are not holding the license. And even if they are holding license, they have to do in accordance with the conditions of the license. So, very important provision. Who will deal in the drugs? Who will manufacture the drug or who will sell the drugs? Nobody can do that except if he has got the license, he can do. And if he has got the license, he has to do according to the license conditions of the license. Now, this is general value chain. Casing material and raw material is coming at manufacturing site, and there the product is manufactured. From there it goes to central warehousing CFA, or it goes for export, or from central warehousing and export the CFA, it will go for export, distribution and stocking for export, and then pharmacy, prescriber, patient, consumer. So this is the normal route of a drug. Now if you talk of export, from here CFA, from CFA it will go to distribution, stock to export, or it will go for export, right? And once it goes to export, in that country it will go to pharmacy or prescriber, and then it will go to patient or consumer. So drug has to be manufactured in accordance with GMP, and at all these levels of distribution or transportation and value chain, it has to maintain its quality. Therefore, one very important point has come up: good manufacturing practices, which also includes good distribution practices. Now, if a drug is being distributed, it has to safely, without pilferage, without adulteration, with maintenance of its stability, and all the physical, chemical, and pharmaceutical qualities and therapeutic qualities should reach the patient. The drug has to be effective till its expiry date, before it is taken by the patient. Right. So this value chain is very important, and then precaution at every level, from packaging material, raw material, to manufacturing, to storage, transportation, even during transportation. It is important to maintain their conditions. And most important, particularly when we are in the pandemic, we discussed many times storage conditions of the vaccines. What are the storage conditions? How it is maintained? If it is not maintained, it will lose efficacy. So if it loses efficacy, nobody will know. So to maintain efficacy, it is very important that you maintain good manufacturing practices, good distribution practices, to maintain the quality of the drug. Right. Now we go into the details. We talk of import and registration first, and then we go into the export and WHO GMP certification. Now, any drug, if it is to be imported in India, earlier it was only import license required under drug and cosmetic rules. But in since 2003, they gave one GSR which said that every drug being imported in India should be registered in India, and a drug being imported in India should be registered in India by way of registration of the unit where it is manufactured, and by registration of the product which is coming to India. So a unit from where a product is coming, and a drug which is manufactured in that unit is to be registered in India. So import of the drug is allowed in India. A drug can be imported in India only if it is coming from the registered source and the drug is registered in India. So this is effective from 1st April 2003. And then what it is, I'll just tell you. But registration is the process where application is given in Form 40, and then the person who is filing this application, he either a manufacturer, means a foreign manufacturer, or his authorized agent in India can file this application. If a authorized agent is filing the application in India, he has to be licensed for sale in India, holding Form 20B and 20B licenses, and he should be having power of attorney. And the power of attorney has to be authenticated by the embassy of the origin country and first class magistrate in India. He has to pay $10,000 for registration of the unit, and $5,000 for per product, or equivalent Indian rupees, for designated branch in Bank of Baroda. So a product can be imported by the authorized, so it can be registered by authorized agent or manufacturer in India, who will be having manufacturing license or 2020B license, and then they will be paying. They will be having a power of attorney signed by the manufacturer, and they will be paying $10,000 or as unit registration fee, and $5,000 for per product fee. Licensing authority is Government of India. Drugs Controller General of India is appointed under Section 21 as licensing authority. So DCGI is licensing authority. So a product is to be imported will be registered. Registration authority is DCGI, and then process is given, right? And if an import license, so any product which is registered by anybody can be imported only with the import license. So import license is given in Form 10 or Form 10A. These are the documents which are to be submitted with the covering letter in Form 8 for getting registration, so for getting import license. It's copy of registration certificate. So drug you are registered, now registration certificate you have to give with the application. An undertaking in Form 9 authenticated by the Indian Embassy, and then a copy of import license will be valid for 3 years if issued, and around 3 weeks are taken to grant this import license. Application for import license is fees is around 10,000 rupees, and for each additional drug it is 1,000 rupees. So any drug, if it is to be imported for personal use, it doesn't require registration. So if a drug is to be imported for commercial use for sale in India, it requires registration. However, if it is to be registered, if it is to be imported for personal use, if per particular patient, a doctor requires a medicine, and for that patient only if the drug is being imported, then it doesn't require import registration. Government hospitals can import new drugs, unapproved drugs for the treatment of their own patients without having any registration. Drugs imported for clinical trials. Now they don't require registration under drug and cosmetic rules. However, for clinical trial, drugs are to be imported. Now they will require to be imported in accordance with the new drug and clinical trial rules. And for any drug which is to be imported for or product to be imported for development and data generation, that will not require registration. But now these two will require import in accordance with the new drug and clinical trial rules. So while applying for the registration on the behalf of the company, you have to comply with the Schedule D and D1 and D2 requirements. The requirements of Schedule D and D1 and D2 are plant master file. These are the terms which are very common in QMS, quality management systems, and everywhere. Plant master file consisting of details like air handling system, water system, personnel, equipments, sanitation, personal hygiene, documentation, product recalls, raw material source and their quality control, etc. So your submission gives all your systems. What is the plant, where it is situated, what are the systems in the plant, what is air handling system. So practically a regulator will visualize the unit here, how it is working. So all AHUs, water systems, personnel, their control systems, everything is to be submitted, right? Plant registration certificate. So the plant is registered in the particular country. So plant registration certificate, or when you talk of India, we say license. So copy of the license or something. Free sale certificate. So if a product is being manufactured in that country, it has to be available freely for sale in that country. If the product is not sold in that country, we may not import. So they have to say that if the product is available in that country for sale. And even WHO Gmp certificate issued by National Health Authority of the exporting country. So what we are saying is, we want your GMP, we want that you should be license holder there. Your product should be being sold in your country, and then you are also complying with WHO Gmp requirements of that country, and a brief profile of manufacturer's research activity. Right. So in general, we say that a company is following good manufacturing practices. He is giving their full data to us, and then we can review the things here, and then we say that in your country you are selling the product, and your product is approved by WHO Gmp certification scheme, and brief profile, right? And then if there are some specific requirements for drug master file, if there is some blood product like source plasma or some very biological product, then drug master file should consist of Details like source of plasma, viral screening, storage of transport from collection center to fractionation center, regulatory status of collection center. This is for biological product or blood products. The detail of viral inactivation process, etc. The details of pharmaceutical processes we need. Unitization, pharmacopoeial standards, on what pharmacopoeial standards it is prepared and what their standards are, pack size, labels, package inserts, everything. Batch release certificate issued by National Regulatory Authority in case of vaccines. And then all these, particularly when we talk of vaccines, all the vaccines being imported in India or being manufactured in India, they are released by Central Drug Research Lab Kasauli. Right. So they are to be sent to CDL Kasauli and then they release. But then before they come to India, they are to be covered with this certificate. So importer has to submit summary protocols of particular batch imported as per WHO requirements to the concerned port office. And at port office, the inspection is done by custom authorities or ADC drugs, and they check all the documents, and if required, they sample, send it for testing, and then they allow the release for sale in India. So this is in general process of import. I can summarize it as simple. If a drug is to be imported in India, it has to be registered in India. So unit is to be registered, drug is to be registered. Now for registration of drug in India, you will require to submit all the details of good manufacturing practices and licenses and their facilities and their systems following GMP and everything to Indian regulator. Right. And then the product safety and efficacy data, testing data, everything is to be submitted. On the basis of that, registration of the product is granted. Once registration of product is granted, you can opt for import license of that product. Now, once import license is given, then you can import the product. While you import the product will be again checked at the port, and there all the documents will be checked. Registration certificate, import license, then all the testing documents, all the protocols of test and test reports. And if required, they will draw sample for testing before release. And once the drug is imported in India and it is coming into the Indian market, it is similar to the all drugs manufactured in India. So further regulation of distribution is similar for imported drug or a drug manufactured in India. Till it is entering in India, there are regulations. Now, here I want to clarify that if a new drug is imported, if a new drug is being imported, there are various different regulations as per new drug and clinical trial rules. And as Rajshri already explained, that you have to go through total process of approval of all clinical trials, their submissions and their safety and efficacy data to be given to the regulator, then only that will be allowed. So a drug which is already marketed in India, it has to be registered and coming in. If a drug is not marketed in India, if coming for the first time, then it will be imported in accordance with the new drug and clinical trial rules, and then all protocols of clinical trials to be submitted, and if required, clinical trials to be conducted in India before marketing. Right? It is a clinical trial and new drugs is a chapter in itself that is huge and that we can discuss some other day. Now, export of drugs. Export of drug, if you talk, it is not expressly given in Drug and Cosmetic Act. However, some labeling requirements and some other details are somewhere it is said, but export per se is not regulated straight. However, none of the drug can be exported from India if it is not complying with the Indian drug laws. So first point is manufacture of drugs. Who can manufacture drugs? Who has got license? So license and complying with the conditions of the license, which we discussed in first few slides. So manufacture is prohibited if you are not holding license. So if you are holding license, you can manufacture. If you manufacture, you have to manufacture in accordance with the license, and then you can export. So manufacturing license is required, and once manufacturing license is there, you have to comply with all the conditions of the license and then manufacture the drugs. So therefore, all the standards of quality, good manufacturing practices, man, method, machinery, personnel, everything are applicable to you from that point, because the term contains manufacture of the drugs for sale or for distribution. So export can be termed as a distribution, right? So neutral now for promoting export, there is one term, neutral code as per Rule 94. So Rule 94 is a labeling rule, and there they say that you may not write details of the manufacturer of India if if the importing country says that they want the product as per their label, and if there it is not mandated that the manufacturer in India has to be returned, then a neutral code given by CDSCO or the state regulator, which contains license number practically, which shows that who is the manufacturer, to the regulator, is to be given, which is not applicable to very important drugs which are given in Schedule F and Schedule X, blood products and NDPs. So neutral code can be given on all the drugs other than these specific drugs of Schedule X and blood products. And all the products are to be labeled on the requirement of the importing country. So label will be as per requirement of the importing country, and even quality standards can be on the requirement of the importing country. As you can very clearly say that in India, Indian pharmacopoeia is mandatory to be complied with. If a product is in Indian pharmacopoeia in India, you cannot market their product as per British pharmacopoeia standards or USP standards. You have to market as per Indian standards, Indian pharmacopoeia standards. However, if you want to export a product, if the country importing that says that they want the product as per USP standards, you can manufacture that product as per USP standards with permission from the licensing authority. So all the requirements, so all even GMP requirements, if you are exporting a product to US, you will be complying with the good manufacturing practices requirement of US. And then in any case, you have to comply with Indian law. But if you are complying with US requirements, and if there are some gaps, then they are to be allowed by the Indian regulator. Some gaps as compared to Indian regulation, then they are to be allowed if the product is only for the export to US. Then there is WHO Gmp certification, that if you want to export a product, there are countries who will demand WHO Gmp certificate. So WHO, World Health Organization, Good Manufacturing Practices Certification, Government of India and state licensing authorities jointly have been authorized to give these certificates, which is accepted by WHO member countries and some other countries. And for that, for all this, always you have to maintain a product master file, drug master file, and there can be audit by importing country. So if you are manufacturing a product to be exported to the regulated market like US, Europe, Japan, or any other country, Australia or any other country, that country regulator can come to India and audit your product, audit your unit, right? And then if they are satisfied, they will register you. So you have to comply with their regulations also, and then they can audit you. And you have to comply with Indian drug laws. So you have to comply with Drug and Cosmetic Act 1940 and Rules 1945. And whatever other applicable laws are there, maybe NDPS will be applicable somewhere, you have to comply with that. Right. So for export, DPC will not be applicable. Okay. Now, what is WHO GMP? I'm not going into other certifications because Rashmi has already covered that various regulatory authorities and their regulations. US has got 21 CFR, MHRA may have got some guide, some Australian guidelines are different. So every regulated country is having their own guidelines, and then there is one PICS guideline. So if PICS country is there, they will come and audit you here, and then they can give you some certification which can be acceptable to some other countries. As far as India is concerned, India is also trying to become a PICS member, so that we will be among more 51 countries where our products will be acceptable and mutual inspections will be allowed. Or our inspection will be acceptable to those countries, and they will not come for separate inspection, may not come for separate inspection here. So now Apart from that, so individual country issues, PICS issue is different. There are around 150 plus countries who are accepting WHO GMP certificate. Now, what is WHO GMP certificate? What is that scheme? How WHO has launched that? We'll discuss that. First draft of WHO GMP this was published in 1967 at the request of 20th World Health Assembly, and then they approved the scheme in 1969. They revised it in 1975, and the guidelines for official inspection of drug manufacturing facilities to assess the GMP were produced. Why GMP? Very important for all of us are into quality. Therefore, the product has to be built in quality. Quality by design, quality by during manufacturing is very important, because all the parameters cannot be tested in a product. So earlier concept of quality control is still valid, but it says that testing is part of GMP, but alone does not provide good level of quality assurance. So to have safety, efficacy, and quality of the drug, GMP provides high level of assurance that medicines are manufactured in a way. So what way, what plant, what people, what methods, what machineries, what processes, what environment, what controls are there, so that they are safe, effective, and are of the quality. Medicines are manufactured to comply with their marketing authorization. Quality is built in the product. So quality has to be built in the product, and only testing may not provide every aspect of the quality. Basic principles of GMP are similar to all GMPs. Schedule M in Government of India, CDSCO Drugs and Cosmetic Act. CFR is of US, ASEAN GMP, and any other GMP which is required. So the GMP certification is on the lines of that. Now, even WHO, our Schedule M guidelines, we are trying to improve. Draft Schedule M has been given in 2018 again, which will be in not only in compliance with WHO GMP guidelines, which will be complying to the PICS guidelines even. So these requirements have been developed taking into consideration the developing markets and requirements of the developing countries. You can have very stringent controls like USFDA, but they are very costly, then the cost will be issue. Therefore, WHO GMP is a dynamic control, dynamic requirement, which can be complied by the regulated industry in proper way, and which is acceptable. I am giving acceptable quality to the rest of the world markets. So these are with some different references, what technical documents, technical report series which were developed by WHO, and then 823 is comprehensive series. Then particularly 863 is there for WHO GMP, and for every other system, for HVAC system they will go 908, for quality control labs 957, stability studies 953, validation 937. So if you see that these guidelines, as you can really compare it with ISO guidelines. ISO have also guide similar guidelines, right? So ISO guidelines for this type of things for some other industries, because these systems can be used in other industries also. So these systems are used as per ISO guidelines in other industries, but if they are to be used in pharma industries, they have been customized with pharma requirements, and they have been published separately in WHO series or ICH guidelines, or in country-specific GMP guidelines. Now, two types of certificates are recommended by WHO. WHO GMP certificate as per TERS, Technical Report Series 823 and 863. This certificate is a certificate to a unit, that a unit is complying with the WHO GMP requirements, and the unit is being regularly inspected by regulatory authority, and they are in compliance with the good manufacturing practices as given in 823 or 863 of WHO TRS series. Now, every product, certificate of pharmaceutical products, COPP, very important term, every product manufactured at this WHO GMP certified unit is given a certificate of pharmaceutical product, COPP. So the product is manufactured in this unit. It is open for inspection. The composition of the product and all other details are given in the product certificate, and that how they are manufactured, it is given in that certificate. A statement of licensing status of the particular unit and the product is also certified. So under WHO GMP scheme, regulators are giving these type of certificates. First 1 and 2 are very important. They are required by most of the countries. What they see, what is required? A member state shall attest the following condition of a manufacturer if required to attest product for the certification. If a product is to be approved, what I have to see? What as the regulator country has to approve is that a product is authorized to be placed in the market of exporting country. Now, when we talk of India, the product is marketable in India, and manufacturing plant is subjected to regular inspections for WHO GMP compliance. All the product information, including labeling, is currently authorized in certifying country. So these 3 conditions. What things are to check before this? Now, WHO allows you to become member of that certification scheme, and allows you to certify that scheme if your effective national licensing system for products and manufacturing distribution. So, member country has to have effective national licensing system, means our laws should be effective for every product. You cannot just say that products are allowed to be manufactured and anything manufactured is given that. So your regulatory system has to be effective, particularly for products, manufacturers and distributors. WHO GMP norms are in place for the manufacturers. Effective control of quality of products, including independent laboratory. So every unit must have independent laboratory. Now, as far as our law is concerned, that is mandated there, that every unit must have a laboratory. Technical, competent, experienced, resourceful National Pharmaceutical Inspectorate. Means CDSCO and state drug regulators must be competent, experienced and resourceful. So National Drug Regulatory Authorities having legal powers of investigation. So if my manufacturer is not complying with anything, we should have legal powers to conduct the investigation and take action. So that has to be there. So this is there with India under Drug and Cosmetic Act. Therefore, they are looking that similar laws are there or not. And we should have administrative capacity to issue certificates. So if a member state is complying with all these 4, then they are given authority to certify. Now, you are to certify the product after thorough examination of the product and facilities where these are manufactured. So regulator has to be there, law has to be there, regulator has to be robust. He should be able to take some action. If required, he should be able to conduct the investigation, and he should inspect and be assured that all the conditions of WHO GMP are complied. Then only after thorough examination of the product and facilities, he has to grant the license. How to certify? The facilities are inspected by National Regulatory Authority, in our case, CDSCO and State Regulatory Authority, State FDS, who has got good knowledge of GMP. The inspection is taking 2 or more days. Certificates are issued by the issuing authority on the recommendation of the joint report. Now, if you talk of Indian system, it is like that, you have to apply to the licensing authority and CDSCO jointly. Now, CDSCO and licensing authority jointly receive the application. They go through your site master file and the submissions, and then they, even particularly in case of CDSCO, they say, you come and present before us that your site is ready for inspection. So you have to give presentation before them that the site is ready for inspection. And then they fix up a date for inspection. Then the state regulator and central regulator, they come and inspect. They may take 2 or more days depending on the facility and the quantum of the work. And then after going through the details and after going through everything, they prepare a report and submit the report to the licensing authority or issuing authority. Particularly when you talk of Maharashtra, they submit report to the licensing authority, and then licensing authority, after going through the report, recommends that for grant a certificate to the issuing authority, who is the state drug controller. In case of Maharashtra, it is joint commissioner, and then the WHO GMP certification is. Now, what is requirement? Requirements are procedures are the main requirements. Procedures regarding what? Products, procedures, facilities. The basic requirements of the product are product design, stability studies, process validation. You will see all these are requirements of our product design and development in when we talk of medical devices 13485. Right. Procedures, all actions taken in the facility which leads to final product as per specification. So product design, stability studies, processes, all procedures, all facilities, building, machinery, services, utilities, manpower, their qualifications, their design, their validation, their calibration, everything is included. Right. So these GMP requirements, particularly normally we discuss all the points related to quality management system, sanitation and hygiene, validation of every system process, equipment, complaints and recalls if the product is there is some complaint or there is some reaction or some NSQ or issue, contract production analysis if the product is partly produced in some other manufacturing unit, and then how to analyze, and if total analysis is not done in the self laboratory, then analysis at some other place. Self inspection, self audit, you are saying internal audit is a term very common in ISO. Personnel, premises, equipment, all materials, raw materials, active pharmaceutical ingredients, excipients and everything. Documentation, sterile production, if it is there, then how it will be done, sterility, and then validation of that. All active pharmaceutical ingredients. Everything is to be discussed. Everything should be in a proper documented fashion. All SOPs in place. All validations to be done. Calibrations, validation, everything as we have in ISO. Similar things are here. So anybody who really knows ISO 13485 or ISO 9001, and if he reads these documents, the clauses and numbers could be different, but they are similar. And then different activities which can be clubbed together are there. Training, induction training, ongoing training, refreshers training, all documents like standard operating procedures, training calendar, assessment, etc. All these are also part of your ISO. So training is must. Every human being, every person you working in this quality management system has to be trained before he goes on to the job, while he is on the job, and continuously refresher and developments in the field must be taught to them in a proper way. Cleaning, sanitation and hygiene, workers entry procedures, cleaning of the premises, etc. Validation and calibration, qualification of machinery, equipment and everything. Storage, apart from normal warehousing facilities, others should also address quarantine. So, and other things. So storage, where every material will be stored, how it will be stored, what is the storage capacity, stacking arrangement, packaging material, everything is to be assessed and must have procedures for that. Movement of manpower, material, how manpower will be flowing, material, how it will be flowing in the premises, movement control, minimum movement with maximum output has to be there, unidirectional flow has to be maintained. Manpower means when they are moving into classified areas, how they will be moving, what will be their changing rooms, what will be their gowning and everything, SOPs, where they will be changing, what will be the dressing pattern, how safety will be assured for manpower and for material both. Particularly, cross-contamination is to be avoided. If the products are very sensitive like penicillins and others, hormones and others, the staff is to be protected from that. And then the protection of cross-contamination into other things is to be maintained. So everything is to be visualized, validated, estimated, understood, and then recorded. So quality assurance is to be built in. Quality control department has to be there. Documentations, must include manufacturing records, master formula records, batch production records, standard operating procedures, document control and distribution system. So documents have to be controlled, who will handle what documents, similar to our ISO system. Cleaning, training, and document regulating, recording, other activities. Everything is with change control. Anything, any system, any material, any method, any person, or any machine is changing. The change control has to be there and it has to be validated. Self-inspections or internal inspections and audits. If you do all this, if you create all this, and there is sufficient guidance available for everything in that TRS, then you will ensure that you will avoid cross-contamination. You'll prevent mix-up of the products. One product mixed up with another things. Like we investigated many cases where mix-up happens because most of the drugs are white in color. If you don't label it properly, keep it in a unit, and if they mix up, then there will be issues. Like there was a very dangerous case of cotrimoxazole, trimethoprim sulfamethoxazole suspension containing glibenclamide. Glibenclamide is anti-diabetic drug, and then it was mixed up with that. Now, cotrimoxazole suspension for a child containing anti-diabetic drug mixed up by accident or whatever, then there could be dangerous consequences. So many people lost life in that. Even normally, I give example of that. It was totally recalled by national newspaper, giving ads in national newspapers by giving batch numbers and everything. But then also some doctors did not read that, and some small quantity which went into physician samples for which distribution records are not maintained batch wise. The recall by the company was not there, and some people lost life by even after recall because they took physician samples. So it is very dangerous. If there is any cross contamination, it has to be recalled properly. So then there has to be prevention of mix-up. There has to be traceability. There has to be accountability of actions. There has to be responsibility and product performance guarantee. If you follow WHO GMP, it will ensure that you avoid cross-contamination, prevent mix-ups, avoid traceability of a product. So what raw material was used, when, from where it was procured, when it was tested, who tested that, what were the result at that time, what is stability of that, if they are stored properly, what is stability today. So everything is checked. Very important part is their stability studies, that the product has to maintain its its all the qualities till its expiry. So they have to be checked for the stability. Now national policy. Director General WHO invited member states to participate in the scheme. India decided that they will participate in the scheme, and then 1978, in 28th meeting of Drugs Consultative Committee, they decided that we will be participating in this scheme. And ECDC decided that firms intending to export should go for COPP, and then they should follow good manufacturing practices which are given in WHO guidelines. And it was also decided to follow the guidelines, and joint inspection of manufacturing firms, as I already explained, by officers of state and central government is being done for issuance of the certificate. And it is ensured that GMP and all checks and controls are exercised in proper way. Now this is a GMP certificate. By the way, yesterday I requested somebody to send copy of the certificate. He has sent a copy of certificate which is signed by me only. So I was a authorized signatory for around 9 years. So this certificate is issued by me. This is a certificate of good manufacturing practices issued to a company based at Nasik. Their license number is there. These are the sections certified, and then the details are given. The certificate will be valid for 2 years, and all the other details of similar kind are given. And who has given certificate? Nowadays that we are giving QR code on the certificate. Authenticity of the certificate can be checked through that QR code, and then and this particularly this certification scheme is totally online and paperless, right? So this is a unit certificate, and this is a COPP, certificate of pharmaceutical product. It will have number, giving country India, for the country in Vietnam, name of the dosage form and the product is given, then composition of the product given to a company, their license number, and all the details that unit will be inspected, and then approvals are there in the place, and we will be checking it. So the product is approved in India and the product is available for export, and this has been inspected and the certificate is granted on 5th November 2018, and then this certificate will be valid for 2 years. Right. Now, once a certificate is WHO GMP certificate is given, it is valid for 2 years, and nowadays they have been giving extension for up to 1 year. So this is the general scheme of WHO certification. With this, I complete my presentation. Only to summarize that if you want to import, you have to register. If you want to export, you have to have compliance with the requirements of the regulations of the country which is importing. And if you want to manufacture and sell in India, you have to comply with Indian good manufacturing practices as given in Schedule M. Right.
Thank you, sir.
I am stopping sharing, and then.
Yeah, thank you, Sadhwani sir, for the wonderful session. And I hope all the participants have learned the import-export regulations in India as such. And I could see a couple of questions in the chat box. So what I suggest, we will park those questions. Definitely, we are going to answer all the questions. My suggestion would be let the third speaker finish his session on the biotech, which is also very interesting and very informative session, and you would love that. So thank you for your patient hearing, all of them, and thanks once again to Sadhwani sir. So I will move forward with the next session with our Dr. Girish Mahajan, and we welcome to him for this WAD 2021 session. About Girish Mahajan, he has a vast professional experience and was associated with various renowned organizations such as Piramal Enterprises, OmniActive, Unilever, Hext, and Johnson & Johnson. So he is an active member and mentor of the American Society for Microbiology, that is ASM, and Association of Microbiologists in India, that is AMI, and member of Special Scientific and Technical Appraisal and Advisory Group, that is TAG, on Marine Bioresource and Biotechnology Network by Government of India, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. A fellow of Society of Applied Biotechnology India, member of the Board of Studies and visiting faculty of various premier schools of biotechnology and microbiology. He is an alumni of ICT UDCT. He is having 19 patents, 137 international and national scientific publication resources. And he has worked extensively on actinomycetes and then myxobacteria and so many other products. So I welcome Dr. Mahajan to share his knowledge on biotech industry. And once again, thanks to all participants for their patient hearing. Please park your question for another 30 minutes, I would say. And we are going to discuss all questions, and all our panel speakers will be in a position to answer your queries. Thanks once again. Girish, it's over to you now.
Thank you very much, Rashri, for the kind introduction. And actually, after listening to this very stringent discipline speak on regulatory, I think all the crowd will has to move to highly technical speech, perhaps, I would say. I hope you can hear me clearly, all of you.
Yes, yes.
Yes. And trust me, as a technocrat person, we always keep ourselves away from regulatory people, because moment I meet somebody, they ask some paper, okay, show this, show that. So now I'm in the tsunami of this, top regulators in India. It's my privilege actually to be with all of you. So let me share the slides and start with the speech. I'm putting it on my slideshow mode. Just okay it.
Yeah, it's coming. Yeah.
It's coming?
Perfect,
clearly?
perfect.
Okay, great. So friends, I'll be speaking on the 4 components like introduction to biotech industry, actually biotechnology as such and how it progressed, and the types of biotech industries around us, its Indian scenario, and what are the global perspectives. Okay, so let us first begin with the introduction to biotech industry. Now, as such, if you listen to biotechnology, because nowadays it's a very common word used by many people, but basically I would say it is a sort of hybrid science. Okay, and hybrid science in the sense it comprises of many science together. If you ask me about 15 years ago, there was nothing like biotechnology. It was a fancy word which you used to use in our textbooks. But last we can say 1.5 decade, there is a very surge in this biotechnology field because of its obvious advantages, and this is overruling all the sciences, and it is said to be one of the 21st century's biggest science, which will revolutionize the world of medicine and agriculture. I call it as hybrid because it uses techniques in microbiology, basically, molecular biology, botany, zoology, bioengineering, fermentation, and many other things. Biotechnology is, as such, if you ask a critical definition, it is a use of biotechnological system found in organisms or the use of living organisms themselves to make technological advances and adapt those technologies to various fields. Because as the science progresses, as the biological system progresses, man started understanding that yes, apart from the regular things, there are a lot of hidden things in the microbes, a lot of hidden things in our own cells, in the plant cells, which can be nurtured, channelized, so that we can get a better products. So biotechnology has applications in multiple fields from agricultural practice to medical sector. Now, I can actually segregate biotechnology into 2 components. One is non-molecular or non-genetic, or rather I can say cellular biotechnology, in which the whole cell, the single cell, act as a product and it bring about the changes and we eat that product. Modern biotechnology, against that, I can call it as a molecular or genetic biotechnology, in which we actually change the DNA of the biological system so that we can make it more proficient, more customized for production of some good product of our interest. Now, biotechnology has important roles in medicine, agriculture, forensics medicines, bioremediations, biocontrol, biosecurity. There are many other fields. Let's go some of this. Let us talk about first classic biotechnology. Now, if you ask in the today era of biotech vaccines, brewery industry is one of the oldest biotechnology. People have been using this brewing, especially in the France, it started and spread across the world. Brewing industry, it started from age old. In the wooden drums, they used to ferment the grape juices. Now today we are fermenting all kinds of juices as well as the extract from the grains to have the various types of brewers like wines and beers. And this is how the biotechnology began as actually. Another oldest technology, biotechnology, is the bread industry, we can say. Around 4000 BC, Egyptians used to living organism like yeast to make the bread. Now that also is like a serendipity discovery, it is called. Airborne wild yeast accidentally got the bread dough, causing it to rise. And someone might have roasted it and they found it very tasty. But today we have a highly refined technology for this bread industry. And all of you must be, witnessing at this time the pictures like different breads and different kinds of you can say soft type kind of breads, multigrain breads, and these are actually made so soft due to specialized yeast. And these yeast today used are not wild yeast, but these are customized yeast so that they will produce exact amount of carbon dioxide in exact quantity. So you can see the breads are very uniformly porous. So this is how one more industry. One more industry of the classic type is a dairy biotechnology, in which you can see the pictures of the cheese. We often, pizzas with a heavy cheese. And at lunchtime, I mean, it must be tempting all of us. But this cheese, I think, is one of the oldest biotechnology in the world, in the dairy industry, apart from the curd. So milk is treated with a lactic acid bacteria, and rennin is an enzyme to coagulate the protein. It forms a very tough protein pieces called as a cheese. Now, obviously, it's not only that. It has to be added different flavors. So these flavors can be added by the help of certain fungi. Okay, that's why we have got different names of the cheese. Of course, in India, all these kinds of cheese are not so famous, but you can see some varieties of the cheese I purposely displayed here. And there is one more field, that is yogurt. Yogurt is not, of course, dahi what we eat. Yogurt is a very controlled dahi, I can say. We have to add known lactobacillus species, known streptococcus species, and thermophilus species, so that it will give a yogurt of a uniform consistency. They are mixed with the flavors. So this is one of the classic technology, biotechnology, which was there. Now, as I told you, all these are very ancient technology, and today we include them in the biotechnology. Now the real progress, because apart from those three, nothing more was there as a biotechnology till then. But the real progress started when Antony Leeuwenhoek discovered first microscope, and he observed a yeast from the vine. That's again a serendipity discovery. And I can say the real story of biotechnology began 345 years ago, almost 3.5 centuries ago. The story started when they started recognizing, yes, the biotechnology is possible because of the bacteria, fungi, algae, protozoa, and viruses. Now, one of the milestone of the biotech, I can say, post-ancient era, means after the discovery of the microscope. In 1796, Edward Jenner, who discovered the first vaccine on the smallpox. Again in 1885, vaccine against rabies, which is a heat inactivated one, Louis Pasteur. And pasteurization is also a process discovered by Louis Pasteur. On his name, the process is given a title as pasteurization. And now you can see it is a story of 1885, and today we are in 2021. The vaccine technology has changed largely. And today we are having a very safer vaccine. Okay, but the principles remain same. Now, one more revolutionary part in biotechnology is the discovery of the antibiotics. The story began in 1929 with discovery of the penicillin by Alexander Fleming. And of course, in 1942, he got really a pure compound, and 1944, Pfizer opened the first commercial plant for this. And this is one of the first, you can say, remedial biotechnology discovery with the help of fungi called penicillin. And in the Second World War, so many soldiers were saved. So this is how the biotechnology began its entry. And these were also called as magic bullets at that time. And today we have thousands of antibiotics, because in scientific field, if there is one success with fungi, so people started working on streptomyces, actinomyces, eubacteria, myxobacteria, started discovering new molecules. That's why we can hear today range of mycins, and even today the best antibiotic, amphotericin B, which is again used for mucormycosis control. So that is also a product of biotechnology. Liposomes, which are produced, that's also product of biotechnology. Now, in the, you can say, old biotechnology, the real turning point came when there is a progress in molecular biotechnology. We can say in 1940, there is a discovery of electron microscope. Later in 1953, Watson and Crick, they confirmed the exact structure of DNA. Now, after confirming exact structure of DNA, obviously, there were people who started thinking, yes, we can actually bring about operational changes in them. And by changing these sequences of DNA, we can incorporate, because in 1953, this happened, followed by Khurana, who discovered the genetic code, the genetic triplets. And then people started realizing, yes, many things can be done with the help of this modulating the DNA. And that is really a turning point. You can say 1953, turning year in the modern biotechnology. And the whole surge got on molecular and genetic biotechnology. And today, if you ask, biotech students, they will speak more on molecular biotechnology and less on the classical biotechnology, because molecular biotechnology, wherein we can change the DNA sequence and come out with better solutions, is one of the most amazing thing which has happened. And it is not only change in DNA, which is often called as a gene splicing and gene cloning. Just to simplify this, like if there are certain genes responsible for production of some good protein in, say, human, say insulin. Now, this insulin gene DNA can be spliced, means cut off from the that beta cells in the pancreas, and this gene can be put into a small bacteria called as Escherichia coli. It is cloned into that. Now the bacteria has a circular gene, E. coli has a circular gene. In that gene, we have added the insulin gene by removing some unwanted gene of that particular bacteria. Now bacteria is deceived. It will start expressing the insulin gene in its tiny cell. And this E. coli will start producing insulin. And the good part is that in a very earlier stage, we used to get insulin from the pancreas of the horses. To get few milligram horses, they have to kill so many horses to get their pancreas. But today we can get kilos of insulin by fermenting the bacteria E. coli. And most of you must be knowing the cost of insulin today, which is pretty low. And this is the boon of the biotechnology, which is, you can say, outcome of cloning and gene splicing. Along with the biotechnology at a higher level, you can say there are techniques discovered like IVF, in vitro fertilization. Like sperms can be fertilized with the egg in a test tube, and then it can be implanted into the females, mammals, and obviously it can yield a healthy baby, like Dolly, the first cloned animal. All of you must be knowing this. And it also comprises of technology of compiling the data, because that's again one of the important component in this biotechnology. On the pharmaceutical sector, like if I can say, all of you are aware of the word called biosimilar. Like there are certain therapeutic proteins which are often used for curing certain diseases. I can say Herceptin, erythropoietin, Avastin. These are all protein therapeutic molecules. One example I can give you, Herceptin, which maybe I believe that more familiar with many of these pharma and biopharma industry. Like Herceptin is a drug used for protection, or you can say remedies for the breast cancer with HER2 positive cases. Now, once the frequency of these cancers is very high, and the original innovator molecule Herceptin was too costly to get it on the layman's, or you can say poor man's boutique of the medicines. So, but discovery of this biosimilar and the technology of the media improvement in the production of this has brought the cost of this biosimilar drastically down. And today, common people can also afford this drug called Herceptin. Now, Herceptin is a drug which is a very big molecule of 150 kilodalton. But this drug can be expressed in bacteria. Also, one more very important improvement seen in the biotechnology tissue culture. Like we can actually cultivate mammalian cells in the flask on the solid media in a continuous way. Like one of it is hybridoma cells, or there are CHO cells, Chinese hamster ovary cells, which can be cultivated. Now these are mammalian systems which can easily accommodate high molecular weight molecules and they express. So like take example of CHO cell, Chinese hamster ovary cell. We can cultivate these cells in a fermenter. The way we are cultivating penicillin in a big reactors of 15 kiloliters. In the same way, we can cultivate these mammalian cell in thousands of liter reactors. And these are allowed to produce the big molecules. Usually, big molecule means anything molecular weight about 2000. For convenience purpose, we say this. And because the molecular weights are too high in this case, so but these can be produced easily today. And another part of media used for it, which is again a part of biotechnology, helps to reduce the cost of the media in that. So this is how today we get drugs like Herceptin in a very cost-effective way because of the biotechnology. Stem cells, I think definitely all of you in your course of study or during your professional experience heard stem cells. So they have ability to become more than 200 different cell types in our body. A simple example, like if there is an issue of say bone marrow, so this bone marrow can be replaced by stem cells and they can be induced to form a new bone marrow so that the patient will not get affected. Thus, the stem cell, CHO cells, these are today the running horses for the new biopharma industry, which has been upcoming since last decade. So these are some examples like European Medicines Agency list a biosimilar under evaluation for marketing approval 2020, Avastin, which is called as a bevacizumab. So MAB means it is a monoclonal antibody. Then we have etanercept, then pegfilgrastim, then rituximab, then transumab. And very recently during COVID, you must have heard about the thing which is called as tocilizumab, which is one of the powerful anti-inflammatory product often used in the third stage of the COVID patients recommended by the doctors. So there are, hundreds of these MABs, currently in the research and available. You can say biosimilar product authorization since 2006, and you can see last 5 years, there is a heavy surge in the biosimilar molecules. So authorization means they are approved biosimilar drugs. So overall, the global revenue for protein drugs by regional through 2020, you can see the amount of revenue generated and the growth rate. In US itself, by 2020, it was 154, means you can say 154 billion, growing at a rate of 10.9, this protein therapeutic market. Now, biotechnology has progressed in all sectors, agriculture, medicine, and just to exemplify, today, most of the COVID-based vaccines, they are actually the boon of the biotechnology. mRNA vaccine, like inactivated or beaconed virus vaccine, protein-based vaccines, and viral vector vaccines. Like, just to give an example of where the biotechnology is involved in this, like, let us take example of say Covishield. So in this Covishield, the DNA component, or in this case, you can say RNA, because COVID-19 is a RNA virus. Okay. So its brain is RNA, not the DNA. So this RNA is incorporated, I mean, you can say complementary incorporated into DNA. And this COVID has a typical spike. You can see the spikes here on the top, these thorns like things. So these thorns are called as a spike. And these spikes at the tip, they have a RBD protein. Like these are the binding receptor binding proteins through which they get entry into our lung cells, AC2 receptor. So these spike proteins are to be blocked. If they are blocked by antibodies or by other means, then this cannot enter into the system. Now, thing is how to do that. So scientists, what they did, suppose this is the mRNA present in or RNA present in the COVID, they exactly located the gene responsible for these thorns. And that particular gene they put in the DNA of the simple virus, which is non-infective, called adenovirus. And this adenovirus carrying the S1 protein gene is used as a vaccine. So it is a genetically engineered virus to carry the DNA. Now, this DNA instructs our cell to produce proteins. So whenever somebody take Covishield vaccine, obviously they are bound to get some chills and temperature, because this virus actually infects and your immunity starts resisting it, because it is sitting with actual small portion of the DNA, which is non-harmful as such to the body. So this is where it plays a role. Covaxin, it's the inactivated weakened COVID virus itself or SARS-CoV-2 itself. And this can easily infect the human, but it will not cause disease. But only good part here is that this virus is carrying all the thorns on its surface. So it can give protection and induce the antibodies against all these spikes. So similarly, there are mRNA vaccines. So these are the just examples which I want to quote you that how the biotechnology helped us. Now, with respect to biotechnology, India is really doing great. So I have compiled some information so that it will help us to know that how biotechnology is really booming in India. I can say India is among the top 12 destinations for biotech worldwide. The industry comprises of greater than 2,700 biotech startups and greater than 2,500 biotech companies in the country. India has 665 FDA approved plants. The US, 44% of the global abbreviated new drug applications, and greater than 1,400 manufacturing plants which are compliant with WHO. The country is also world's third largest producer of recombinant hepatitis B vaccine and second largest producer of BT cotton. This itself, says how much we are doing here in India. The Indian biotechnology industry mounted, some 63 billion in 2019 and is forecasted to reach 150 billion by 2025 at the rate of 16.4. By 2025, the contribution of Indian biotechnology industry in global biotechnology market is expected to grow to 19%. And biopharmaceutical is the largest segment that contributed 58% to the Indian biotechnology market. So we can say today, biopharma has played a major role in remedial things, followed by biotechnology in agriculture, which is accounted for 19%, and the bioservices that account for 15% by 2019. The Indian biologic market is expected to register growth of 22% till 2025 to reach 12 billion by 2025. Bioservices, which accounted for 15% biotechnology industry. Now, you may wonder what is bioservices? So bioservices involves the various services such as, for cell authentication, identification, and various assays which are carried out for a particular therapeutic area, in vitro assays. And this also involves the clinical trials, contract research, and manufacturing activities across the country. Now, to give some examples, how government is actually supporting. In March 2021, you can say Citiva, a global science player, and Telangana government partnered to open 10,000 square feet fast-track lab accelerate the advances local biopharma scale-up needs. In March 2021, Gland Pharma announced it will produce 252 million doses of Sputnik V COVID-19 vaccine in the third quarter of 2021. In February 2021, Government of India announced multiple initiatives such as setting up 10 biotech university research, joint industry, translational clusters. In this year only, Jan 2021, Biocon Biologics, the biosimilar arm of the Biocon, received an investment of 555 crores from the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund. In Jan only, India's first indigenously developed DNA vaccine candidate against COVID-19 by Zydus has received approval by Drug Controller DCGI. So there are so many credentials. In Jan 2021, Bharat Biotech plans to produce 700 million doses of COVID, and already it is going on. So there are so many examples which tells us that yes, there are, India is really into biotech business, and maybe now we are in the top 12. Perhaps in next 5 years, we'll be in a top 5. These are some other examples which you can read out. I will hold for a few seconds. Now, under the Union Budget 2021-22, the government outlaid rupees 1,660 crore for biotech research and development. Under the Union Budget 2021-22, the government announced plans to set up 9 biosafety BSL-3 laboratories through the Pradhan Mantri Atmanirbhar Swasth Bharat Yojana. So these are again 2 strong indicative like about India's involvement, seriousness in biotechnology. The Indian biotechnology is built on entrepreneurship, innovation, developing domestic talent, and demonstrating the value-based care. Given the long history of disease in India, the country has accumulated years of experience and scientific knowledge to prevent and treat them. India is working to boost the biotechnology sector under the flagship programs such as Make in India and Startup. Increase in the number of biotech incubators will boost research and promote growth startups, and it is critical for the success of the Indian biotech industry. And among all this, Department of Biotechnology, DBT, BIRAG, these are the top funding agency who have provided a lot of funds, and we saw the outcome in our earlier slides. Now, you can say globally, the biotechnology market is expected to grow at 2.44 trillion by 2028, according to a new report by Grand View Research. It is expected to expand at a rate of 15.83 from 21 to 28. So the part of this is well reflected in India. So same thing is happening across the world. Apart from this, one important aspect which I would like to just glance through this is what is important, what is the regulatory status of the biotechnology. Now, under the coordinated framework of regulation of biotechnology, 3 federal agencies like USFDA, APHIS, EPA, and FDA regulators, GMOs under existing policies in a product-based approach. Now, when a particular biotech industry start with a biotech project, either genetically modified microbe or genetically modified clone of a mammalian cell or a plant cell, the first thing comes into picture is the approvals at all stage from Review Committee on Genetic Manipulation, that is RCGM. Now, this committee shall function from Department of Biotechnology to monitor the safety related aspects in respect of ongoing research projects or activities involving hazardous microbes, genetically engineered microbes, cells, and products thereof. The RCGM shall include the representative from DBT, Department of Biotechnology, Indian Council of Medical Research, Indian Council of Agricultural Research, Council of Scientific Industrial Research, and other experts in their individual capacity. RCGM may appoint subgroups to assist RCGM on matters related to risk assessment. And just to give an example, like most of our projects which are running in high media also, which are, I mean, we got many grants from international collaboration and DBT. So we have to apply for RCGM even the gene sequence of the cell on which we are working. And their team verifies them very carefully, come out with the queries, and then they approve the usage. Yeah. The RCGM brings about manuals of guidelines specifying procedure for regulatory processes with respect to activities involving genetically engineered organisms in research, use, as well as industrial and environmental applications with view to ensure human health and environment safety. All ongoing research projects involving hazardous microbes, like anything which is highly contagious and invasive, GE organisms or cells shall be reviewed to ensure that adequate precautions and containment conditions are being met. RCGM shall lay down procedures restricting or prohibiting production, sale, then importation and use of hazardous microorganisms, GE cells, organisms and cells. IBSC, this committee shall be, IBSC like Institutional Biosafety Committee. Actually, it is there in every institute and university to ensure the safety from their institute. Now, this is IBSC committee is a connecting link between RCGM and the institute. So in IPSC, there are components from institute from where the work is the committee started. There are industrial experts and there are components from Department of Biotechnology. So it is taken care that all what is being done in that institute has been conveyed to RCGM. So this is like a nodal point between the RCGM and the this link also I have given you for details. So these are the 4 regulatory agencies at development as well as production and approval level for any product. First is USFDA. Any new product developed through food and plant biotech innovations falls under approval and review process by FDA. Then US Department of Agriculture, USDA. USDA Animal Plant Health Inspection Services regulates biotech improves of the new crop varieties. EPA works with FDA and USDA to regulate new biotechnology crops to ensure these crops don't harm the environment, including other plant and animal species. The Biotechnology Regulator Authority of India, that BRAI, is proposed regulatory body in India for use of the biotech products, including the GMOs. So thus, biotech in India is very much controlled through the process regulatory agencies, also these final regulatory agencies. So this is again a short summary. Like one new thing, only thing is the GEAC, the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee functions in the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, is responsible for monitoring the large scale and commercial use of the transgenic material, especially the animals and plants. So that's all I wanted to share with you because I was given only 25 minutes. So I think that is how. So if you have any queries, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Dr. Girish.
Thank you.
And really, it was very informative and very good session, I would say. And we have already received a good feedback from the participants for your presentation, Sadhvani sir's presentation. So now I request just stop your screen and we will take a couple of questions from the audience.
Sure.
And maybe I will also ask a couple of questions. and then we'll close the session. Is that fine?
Yeah, sure.
Prem? Yeah.
I'm
So
trying to.
coming, yeah,
We can.
you can just stop sharing the screen.
Data, I'm not able to see.
Go to share screen.
Stop this. You should go here.
Okay, Nayush. Maybe I request Prem Kumar.
Can you stop sharing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read the questions, ma'am, from chat
Yeah,
box?
yeah, and stop. Just stop sharing this Dr. Girish screen.
I think it is done.
Yeah,
Yes,
it is
thank you.
done. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, you can proceed with the session.
Yes. So there are a couple of questions I could see from the chat box, and we will consider those questions first before I ask other questions as per the
Sure.
panel discussion. So the first question, just hold on, give me a few seconds.
Yeah.
So the first question I could see from Shailesh Kumar, that how remdesivir emerged as a drug in short time. However, the drug development take much time. Whether the clinical trials are promising? So can anyone like Sadhwani sir or Girish can answer the question?
I think Sadhwani sir can answer. I
I'll
will
answer.
also share technical
I'll
part.
answer.
Yeah.
Sir, remdesivir is a drug already approved for some other indication. I exactly now don't remember for what indication it was approved. So what they said that this particular drug has got some effect which can reduce hospitalization, and then they had some trials on that. They said that they can do that. So they verified that, and then emergency use authorization. Full safety was not proved. So there is one emergency use authorization clause with every regulator, that if a drug is there in pipeline, it has been used, and particularly safety parameters are okay, animal studies and everything is done, before going for phase 3 clinical trials in that particular indication, it may be allowed looking into the available data. So remdesivir is a drug under study for some other purpose, but they said that this can serve this purpose, therefore they used it. And then it is emergency use. Full safety is not proved, but to some patients it can be helpful. So remdesivir could save some lives because it was available.
Right. So Dr. Mahajan, would you like to add something?
No, he has told exactly, because earlier it was an approved drug for some other remedies, and that's why it is on emergency basis. It is approved that it will at least safeguard some highly prone patients who are on the deathbed.
Right.
Yeah.
So it has really helped many patients to save their life.
Yes.
So thanks, Sadhwani sir and Mahajan. I will move to next question. That is neutral code applicable for medical device? Again, Sadhwani sir.
I'll answer. As of now, actually, till medical devices are part of medical devices, drug and cosmetic rules, it was applicable. You could have given medical devices for export in neutral code. But as of now, medical devices are being marketed as per medical devices rules 2017, and then practically exemption is there. It is to be labeled in accordance with the requirement of the importing country. But in that, there are minimum labeling requirements as per Rule 45, which says that name of the manufacturer and address of actual premises where the device has been manufactured has to be there. So this doesn't allow exactly only neutral code. Where the device is manufactured, you will have to give the details of that.
Perfect. Then I move on to next question from Anil Johri sir. Why do pharma units go for ISO 9001 certification? What's the driver for this?
Okay, great, sir. Anil Johri sir, thank you for asking. And see, What we are covering under good manufacturing practices is only quality parts. Total management of a pharma unit is not covered under GMP. So it is a management standard 9001. So for all other systems, they go for management standards, right? And there is particularly one more thing that now some regulatory bodies have been insisting on good distribution practices standard. Now, good distribution practices standard is not there as per ISO, but there are certain regulatory bodies, certain certification bodies who are giving this good distribution practices certification, but they see the compliance of the good distribution practices guidelines as given by WHO or as given by PICS in
Even EKMHR is
along with ISO 9001. So systems are built in quality management systems are built according to 9001, ISO 9001, and then those systems are in compliance with the regulatory guidelines, and it is checked that if they are in compliance with 9001 and regulatory guidelines, then good distribution practices certificates are given. So general management standards, general office uh, maintenance and everything for that particularly administrative part and management part, ISO 9001 is a certificate, and practically in that they say that okay, GMP is also there, they are complying with the regulatory requirement, therefore they go for ISO 9001, which is additional certificate, which is not may not be mandatory as a regulatory requirement, but that it is helping in marketing and voluntary compliance to the 9001 standards.
correct. So in short, so ISO 9001 is not mandatory because in pharma industry we have to meet other stringent requirements, as per country specific laws, regulation and standards. And mainly we are focused on, ICH guideline and 21 CFR parts. Major, like 90% of the industry works. And ISO 9001 is generically used by many of the company, but it is also useful to other industry, not mainly in the pharma industry.
No,
So
my
during-
question, my question was that, see, when there are regulations, for
Sorry.
example, even food, there are regulations. But still ISO 22000 is pretty popular in the industry. Not necessarily for exports. For exports, there are several other schemes like BRC or IFS, etc., which they are required to do, FSSC 22000. So there has to be a driver. I mean, industry would not go for a voluntary certification and spend money unless it brings them some business benefit. So I was looking at what business benefit 9001 brings to the pharma units, that they are going, so many are 9001 certified, despite the fact that if they export, they have to go by exporting countries' requirements. If they are in domestic market, they have to go by CDSCO regulations. They have to go for WHO GMP. So still on top of that, 9001 seems to be reasonably popular from my experience. So I was just wondering, what is the reason for that popularity?
Right. I can answer. So that driving force is that only that we are complying with the various regulations, and then whatever regulatory regulations are there, they are binding. You have to comply with that. But additionally, we are complying with ISO 9001. Maybe they may not be taking it for all the facilities and everything, but for management standard, particularly administrative and distribution practices, they may be opting for ISO 9001 and saying that it is a feather in their cap that they are complying with voluntary standard, though it is not mandatory, and then they get advantage during marketing.
Right. Shall I move to next question? Anil Johri, sir?
It's okay. Yes, thanks.
It's okay?
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. So next question is, what are the countries not inspecting the facility and approved by the dossier?
There are many countries who are approving by the dossier, and particularly only most regulated countries, they come for inspection. And because most of the countries doesn't have drug regulatory mechanism that strong, and they don't have inspectorate staff to go to other countries and inspect. Even when we say that India has mandated that we will be inspecting, there are before registration, there are very few inspections done by India, which I remember is only maybe 8 or 10 in China, particularly API facilities. So otherwise, on the basis of the dossiers they have submitted, the approvals are done. So particularly when we say WHO GMP certifications, and then most of the countries, those who do not have uh, strong regulatory mechanism or sufficient staff there, they allow registration by dossiers. Practically, they see that it is coming from the right regulatory authority, and certificates are good.
Right. And WHO comprises of already in 193 nations.
Uh,
So once you have WHO GMP certification, anyone can export their product into those many countries. And that is why rather than local GMP certification, many Indian companies goes for WHO GMP so that they can easily export their products, the multiple countries. I move to the next question. Maybe Dr. Girish Mahajan, you can answer. Sir, if there is a genetic mutation in the spike region of current COVID strains, then what will be the action of Covishield? Do we need alternative?
Okay, it's a good question about the spike protein. Actually, spike protein comprises of two parts, S1 and S2. And also there is a RBD protein at the tip, which is most important. Now, till now, what we have got is in the S1 protein and very less in S2. And RBD part are not so many mutants are seen. So obviously, the neutralizing antibodies, which actually hold back the coronavirus, are the one which are binding to this RBD protein. So
Right.
even the spike part, S1, S2 are affected, then there will be a less change on the action of Covishield and even Covaxin. I hope this answered.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
In this way, I have completed the question from the participant in the chat box. Since I am a moderator, I have a couple of questions coming to my mind, and I would ask on behalf of a participant. Okay. So first question to Sadhvani sir, during COVID or post COVID, what do you see, like how India will have the impact, like pharmaceutical industry will have impact?
See, in the Indian pharmaceutical industry was going strong. It is pharmacy of the world, as I already said. Further, particularly in pandemic situation, most of the countries have been supported by India by providing medicines in time, even vaccines in time now. Though we are needing vaccines of ourselves, still there is scope for export, and then they are doing that. So pharmaceutical industry from India will be really having good future and good you can say that there will be good developments, and particularly when coming up with the biotech industry coming together. So pharma biotech will take a lead in future. So there are very good days for pharma professionals in India and pharma industry in India in future. And particularly in this COVID itself, we have demonstrated to the world that we can provide everything. When once, suppose say with you said remdesivir, we had 5 manufacturers. When there was shortage, they become 10. So there is exponential growth in the industry, and very fast adaptive industry is available, and quite good manpower, technical manpower, and then quite good manufacturing facilities are available, which are adaptable also. And we can be very fast in growth, and we can really create plants and everything in um, no time, and then go ahead with that, right? So there will be good future for Indian pharma industry.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And with extension to the same question, now, are we going to have a more stringent system, compliance system to be built in India? Do you feel there should be stricter regulations in future as compared to the international standard? And to stay in international market, what India will do in future? What are the plans, like future plans?
We have been continuously increasing our standards. We had earlier GMP, now new GMP draft is there, right? Now to date we are only saying we will be giving WHO GMP certification, but now we are saying that okay, we will be member of PICS. So Government, by improving regulation, is creating an environment of higher compliances, which will lead to acceptance in more and more countries. And by the way, as of now, as Girish sir has also said, that we have more in India. We have units approved by USA. After USA, most of the units are approved in India by USA. So numbers, we are good. We and because quality culture has been developed. See, if a unit is approved by the government, USFDA, people working there, they have got that capability. Similar units are coming up. They come out and they develop other units. So that is exponentially that has been happening since last 20 years, right? So environment is good, and then even Indian regulator is alert. Earlier we had no bioequivalence requirements. Now we have created bioequivalence requirements even for the domestic market. Now we had no clinical trial rules. We were doing it with Schedule Y. Mandatory rules were not there. We have given new clinical trial rules. New medical devices rules have come in. So environment is evolving. Since last 3-4 years, there is good development. In future also there will be stringent rules coming up. But then you will have to also see that you cannot be that stringent that your industry dies. You have to evolve the industry from that. You should have evolving industry. Industry has to cater your needs, cater needs of the rest of the world where they who cannot pay that big price. But industry has to also cater needs of the most developed market who can pay good price. So very dynamic, very developing, and so regulation is developing, industry is developing, and world is accepting. So I hope that we are on the right track and fast track.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Very informative it was. Sir, one last question, if time permits, if I ask. See, several other countries has opened the EUA, that is Emergency Use Authorization. How India will take on this EUA, in future? Like,
No,
how
no.
it will be taken forward?
See, there is straight provision under Drug and Cosmetic Act and particularly clinical trial rules that regulator or government of India, when is in understands that there is an epidemic or pandemic or there is some emergency situation in the country, then depending on the available data, they can always authorize emergency use. But that will also not be overruling safety. So safety efficacy you have to see, and you may not have that much data, but then you can allow. So on that basis, particularly remdesivir, tocilizumab, and some other drugs have been allowed in India for a particular COVID type of situation. Same way now, USFDA and all other countries have also approved antibody cocktail. Right. So USFDA has approved that. Even Cipla has got approval on Roche antibody cocktail in India, and one Celtrion Korean preparation is also in the pipeline. So there is a process, and every country should have that, because this type of conditions cannot be ruled out. And very recently, our new drug and clinical trial rules was passed, and then immediately we had similar requirements. So they have been giving that, and even that in that rule, they have said that it is necessary to have clinical trials in India. But for vaccines, last 15 days only, Government of India said if any vaccine is approved by USFDA or Europe, then it will be allowed to be imported in India without having bridging clinical trials in India, which they did for Covishield or for Sputnik they were doing. But for other vaccines which are approved by US, will be allowed straight import in India. So that way, emergency use authorization is being used by Government of India in a nice way, particularly during pandemic.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So now I move towards Dr. Girish Mahajan. And Girish, the first basic question I would like to ask, since I have been also vaccinated 3 days back, and I was having shivering and little bit of body pain, fever. So can you highlight whether after vaccination do we get some symptoms like which I had, and others if they don't get any symptoms? So what is the correlation, how it has to be handled? Can you just highlight on this, Dr.
Okay.
Girish?
Yeah. See what happened when you are getting say Covishield. I think you got Covishield.
Yeah, I got a
That is
Covishield,
a
and I would
major
like
supply.
to have a like know the difference between Covishield and Covaxin also.
Yeah, yeah.
If you can highlight, yeah.
Yeah. See, Covishield is expressing the S1 protein, basically spike protein, which is again a key in combating against this COVID. Now, obviously, it is going into our body through adenovirus. Now, both adenovirus and spike, they are new to our body. Only thing is they are not causing any harm, any infectious things in the body, but definitely they elicited our anti-inflammatory system. So obviously, challenging the inflammatory system to combat against this newly expressed S1 protein and adenovirus, our body has to react by increasing the temperature, because increasing the temperature is one way of combating against this and increasing the blood flow in certain areas. So obviously, this is going to bound the you will get feverish when you get Covishield or Covaxin. I mean, that is a normal. It actually really shows that the vaccine is also working and your body is also responding.
Good.
But there are people like who don't have any of this. See, our immunity does not operate only through antibodies. There is one more system called as cell-mediated immunity. Okay. Now the WBCs, the T cells, basically T cell mediated immunity, that also challenges. But the effects of these are not seen in the form of any symptoms. So that's why there are certain groups of people who are getting good symptoms. The severity is very high based on our own body format, and in some cases we don't see anything. If perhaps either they are being taken care because reactions are not so intense, because it is exactly similar the way when a COVID virus infects. Like when COVID virus infects, certain people go to the ventilator level. There is a cytokine storm. It means their body is responding very aggressively. But some people have a mild fever and home quarantine within 4 or 5 days they recover. Same thing is mimicked against this spike protein. So that's why some people get this, but this is normal. Only thing, it should subside immediately within 2 days. If it keep on extending, then definitely it is there is a need to contact a doctor. So
Right.
better to drink a lot of water and keep one paracetamol with you or crocin, if it is convenient for that's what doctor
Yeah.
advise usually.
Right.
Yeah,
Doctor has advised to for this Dolo 650.
yeah,
Which is
Tulasi.
paracetamol. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you. And just can you highlight about there's lots of cocktail of antibodies word I'm hearing from many people. So can you just elaborate on this? What is it exactly like?
See, cocktail of antibodies means there is a mixture of different antibodies, say antibodies against S1, antibodies against S2. See, if I say monoclonal antibodies, it means it is acting against a particular clone, particular epitope. But if we have a mixture of antibodies, which is acting against different epitopes of an antigen, like if I have a mixture in the serum, the antibody of RBD protein S1, S2, it means I have a cocktail. It's like different fruit juices mixed together. Usually our serum is a cocktail only of the different antibodies. So that is also sometimes recommended, but the best is the vaccine. And especially Covaxin, I can say it will generate all the cocktail of antibodies only, because the whole virus which is inactivated goes into the body. So obviously it will generate not only against spike, those antigens which are highly antigenic than other, there the response is very high. And the spike proteins are highly antigenic. So obviously most of the antibodies are against those.
Thank you, doctor. We are exceeding time, and there is a message for me.
Okay.
So once again, I'm really thankful to all of you, those who are attendees, and my dear speaker, Sadhwani sir and Dr. Mahajan. I'm again thankful to Prem Kumar, who was the host for the day, and I'm thankful to Rama ma'am, Anil Johri, Sanjeev ji, Sikhantan ji. Sorry if I forget anyone's name. Thank you very much. It was a wonderful experience to share our knowledge on this CCC platform. And that's all from us.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very
And
much.
have a
Thanks to all
wonderful
of
day.
you for careful listening. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to all.
Thank
It's
you.
a really wonderful session. Lot of informations we got in there. Though I'm the mechanical engineer, I got a lot of information on medical field today. I'm so happy in this.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, all.
Okay, thank you.
And if
Thank you,
still
Dr.
they have any
Bharat.
question,
Thanks,
they can
Mr.
connect to Rama ma'am and we will answer those questions. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Have a
I will
nice
leave
day.
the meeting.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you so much, all.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.